I don't know about you, but I thought The Boys was bluffing. The show spent 5 seasons saying that no one was safe. No one. We heard that over and over again. We kinda believed it. Because it's one thing for the show to say that any character could die. It's another thing for it to actually go and kill off one of the hearts of the story. And in this episode, it finally proved it was true. And I have to admit, I was expecting a major death, but I didn't think it would be this one, and definitely not like this. But pay attention, Frenchie's death isn't just a sad death. It could be the piece that changes everything in the end, because this episode didn't just show us who died, it showed us how Homelander could fall. And maybe the cruelest punishment for him isn't dying. Maybe it's becoming exactly what he's always despised: human. Guys, total spoilers for episode 7 from here on out. If you haven't watched it yet, stop the video now. Go over to Prime Video and watch it first, because this episode is way too important to be spoiled. Let's get into the video. Remember this, Frenchie's death is the point where the episode stops being set up and becomes consequence. I'll get to that. But first, let me show you what was built up before that moment. And it already starts in the most The Boys way possible, with a musical number. And it's not just any musical number. It's Father basically putting together a Vought gospel cult to sell the idea that Homelander is the new Jesus. And just look at the level of his scene. An angel on stage, choreographed dancing, the music building up, a touch of sensuality thrown in, everything to turn fanaticism into a spectacle. Because it's The Boys, right? First you laugh at how absurd it is, then you realize the joke is way sicker than it seemed. Out of the 30 people who watched that performance, only 6 actually believed it. 6 out of 30, that's 20%. And Homelander ordered the rest to be killed. Man, just look at how far this guy has gone. He basically ran a faith survey. Whoever passed, lived. Whoever didn't, died. It's disgusting, because he turned worship into a matter of survival. And remember that number, because it doesn't show up by accident. In episode 5, Vought had done an internal survey showing that only 22% of the population would support Homelander as a deity. And now this test with the Father pretty much confirms the survey. The numbers add up. Roughly 20% buy into this idea, the rest don't. But here's where it gets really scary. Homelander doesn't want to kill everyone because he needs an audience. He needs people alive, watching him, applauding, kneeling, treating him like he's above everything. So the 20% who believe are the audience he wants to keep. What happens to the 80% who doubt? Hater, traitor, enemy. And in the mind of a guy who thinks he's God, an enemy doesn't deserve to exist. Now think about it with me. This completely changes Homelander. Throughout the whole series, he wanted approval, he wanted love, he wanted people to look at him and feel affection. Not anymore. Now he wants worship. And pay attention to the difference, because this is where Homelander leveled up. Now he wants obedience, because when someone loves you, that person can still disagree with you. But when it turns into a cult, that's it. You don't question, you just bow your head. And if you don't bow your head to Homelander, you become the enemy. And when a guy with laser eyes stops wanting love and starts demanding worship, the game's over. And they show this visually too. Over at Vought, painters are covering up the paintings of the heroes with images of Homelander. The 7 don't exist anymore. The heroes don't exist anymore. There's only him now. The episode doesn't need to stop and explain, look, Homelander erased everyone. It just shows it. Homelander burned all his bridges, made everyone hate him, discarded allies, destroyed his own team, and still thinks he's winning. Now look at this milk scene, because it might seem silly, but it's not. Homelander banned baby formula, plant-based milk, almond milk, any alternative he sees as an affront to breast milk. And yes, it's ridiculous, but it's ridiculous in that The Boys way, because behind the joke, there's character. Ever since Madeline Stillwell, that mother figure Vought used to control him, milk became an emotional memory, a dependency, an emotional void. And just look at how crazy this character is. Homelander might be running the whole country. He can kill anyone with just a look. He can force everyone to treat him like a god. But deep down, he's still stuck in the same old hole. He doesn't just want power, he wants affection. He wants a mother. He wants someone to tell him you're special. And that makes him even more dangerous, because he's a needy child with the power to destroy the world. And if you think this is just about milk, it's not, because right after, the episode shows that Homelander's problem isn't just about his mother, it's about his father too. Soldier Boy says he doesn't want to stay anymore, that he only handed over V1 because of Stormfront, and now he just wants to leave and chill. And Homelander can't accept that because he doesn't know how to love. He knows how to possess. So he does the only thing he knows how to do with someone he doesn't want to lose. He locks him up, freezes his father again, and leaves him there in the room, as if that would fix anything. How twisted is that? For Homelander, if he can't have real love, he'd rather have a frozen, motionless, trapped version, but still present. And now I want to know if you thought the same thing I did. If Soldier Boy's gonna get out of that chamber in the end, who gets him out of there? The group doesn't even know exactly where he is, but Stan Edgar is still locked up in the Vought building. That thread is still loose. And in The Boys, a loose end is almost never left loose by accident. And while Homelander was trying to turn fear into religion, Starlight and Mother's Milk were living the other side of this war. The two of them save civilians while Father does the audience test. And in this scene, there's a revealing moment. Starlight asks why they risk so much to save a bunch of people who don't even want to be saved. And I don't know about you, but for me, this is one of the first scenes this season where she really works, because she's not just being a hero. She's tired, she's frustrated. She's looking at people who might hate her, who might even support Homelander. And even so, she's there saving them. That's real heroism. It's not about saving those who cheer for you, it's about saving those who might never thank you. And that's where MM comes in. When he was a kid, he saved a pigeon that everyone on the block used to look down on. And that's when they started calling him Mother's Milk. But he took that nickname and turned it into something else. For him, the name came to mean doing good, saving what others throw away, taking care of what nobody else wants to care for. And look how that ties into the whole episode. Homelander discards those who are useless to him. MM saves those who have been discarded. They're two completely opposite ways of seeing the world. And after a season of feeling kinda lost, it's his conversation with Starlight about hope that brings him back. The MM who takes care of what others throw away is back. And I seriously doubt that won't matter in the end. But while some characters are trying to remember why it's still worth saving people, Butcher is being reminded of who he used to be. And then comes a heavy revelation. A psychic uses Kessler's image to reveal a story we didn't know yet. In the past, on a mission, Butcher was so obsessed with the objective that he let all his teammates die. He walked out alone. And when that's thrown in his face, he doesn't deny it. He just stays quiet, because it's true. That isn't there just a fill-in backstory. It's the episode reminding us what Butcher does when he loses control. And now the final episode's coming. But there's a twist here that I think is really powerful. Before, Butcher let others die for the mission. So the most powerful arc for the ending would be for him to do the opposite, die so that the others can survive. That closes the circle. He starts out as a man driven by hate, guilt, and revenge. And maybe he ends up making a choice that saves whoever can still be saved. While Butcher is confronted by his past, Sage also has to admit her own mistake. Sister Sage finally explains why she failed. Why she didn't foresee that Soldier Boy would hand over the V1. And the answer is simple and at the same time really good. Love is unpredictable. She can calculate almost everything. Strategy, politics, behavior, risk, consequence. But a completely irrational decision based on affection that slips through. And here's a detail that adds a lot. She went through this herself. She fell in love with Odokun's genius before realizing he was a psychopath. So when she says she couldn't predict Soldier Boy's love, she's not just making excuses. She knows what she's talking about. She too has been defeated by this blind spy. But pay attention, Sage hasn't turned into a hero. She didn't just wake up one day and think, now I'm gonna save the world. That's not it. At the very least, out of self-interest, she's against Homelander now. And maybe the smartest person in the world, precisely because she's already made mistakes for following her heart, is exactly who the group needs to avoid messing up at the crucial moment. And now, pay attention to this part because this is where the episode starts putting together the weapon for the finale. Meanwhile, Frenchie and Kimiko were at Vought Studios undergoing radiation sessions. The plan was to use the same process the Russians used to give Soldier Boy that effect capable of removing Compound V from other Soup's blood. And remember that promise? France, family, a fresh start. Well, that's exactly what the episode was setting up to destroy. And the Deep is a perfect example of what happens to those who serve Homelander until the end. The Deep was always Vought's ultimate suck-up. The guy who puts up with humiliation, makes excuses, obeys everything, thinking he'll be rewarded someday. And when he was no longer useful, he was tossed out like trash. No ceremony, no thanks. His devotion meant nothing. So he goes down to the dock to have a beer. And the beer brand is A-Train's, the friend Homelander killed at the start of the season. I mean, how cruel is that? They're still selling the image of a dead guy. That's bloody. And at the same time, it's brilliant. And now even the sea doesn't want the Deep anymore. The shark shows up to collect. If he goes into the water, he'll die. And then an old man drowns right in front of him. This scene is wild, because theoretically, that was the most obvious moment for him to be a hero. It's water, it's his element, it's where he should be in control. But he doesn't save him, because he's afraid to die him. And people are filming it. The King of the Seas, who is almost never treated like the King of the Seas, ends up without the sea, without a job, and without the title of hero. It's the perfect ending for this character, and this also says something about Homelander. When he gets what he wants, he starts to throw away everyone who helped him get there. The Deep was useful up to a certain point. After that, he became trash. And look at Ashley. After Homelander kills Calhoun, Ashley becomes president. But that doesn't put her above him. It just puts her closer to the laser. And Homelander knows she has the mental power. If he needs to use Ashley in the final episode, he can. And if she tries to betray him, he already knows she has something up her sleeve. Keep an eye on Ashley, because that detail really feels like something that's gonna come back at the end. And when you look at Soldier Boy, the Deep, and Ashley, you notice something. Homelander is winning, but he's ending up alone. He locks up his father because he can't stand to lose. He tosses the Deep aside because he's no longer useful. And he puts Ashley in the highest position possible, but also in the most dangerous spot possible. That doesn't look like stability. And now I need to step away from theory for a bit, because this part isn't just about a plan, it's about pain. And then we get to the most important scene of the episode. Frenchie knew the risk. He knew the uranium chamber could be fatal. He knew that could be the end of them. And even so, he went. Why? Because it was Kimiko. Because it was the chance. Because in that moment, he chose to save her and screw over Homelander, even knowing he might not make it back. I'll be honest. I didn't expect this death to hit so hard, because it doesn't feel like a cheap shock. It feels like consequence. And maybe that's why it hurts more, because we see it coming, but still don't want to accept it. And before locking Homelander in there, Frenchie does something that's just so Frenchie. He taunts him, makes an outrageous provocation in the most Frenchie way possible. And Homelander, who can't stand being humiliated by anyone, falls for it. He shoots, right there. Homelander shoots because of the provocation, and the uranium does the rest. Frenchie gets hit by Homelander and is doomed by the radiation at the same time. And even then, he doesn't back down. This detail closes a circle. The first scene with Frenchie and Homelander and the last one have the same energy. Frenchie never completely gives in, not even to the most powerful guy on the planet, not even when he's dying. Eric Kripke confirmed in an interview that Frenchie and Kimiko have always been the emotional heart of the series, and that this death needed to happen. And that's what hurts about this death, because Frenchie wasn't dreaming of glory, revenge, or becoming a hero. He just wanted to get out of there with Kimiko, go to France, have a family, live a simple life. But in The Boys, when someone starts dreaming of a normal life, you already know the show's gonna make them pay dearly. So he comes back to die in Kimiko's arms. That same Frenchie who at the beginning of the episode talked about starting over, about the future, about a different life, stops. And now Kimiko carries the radioactive effect from Soldier Boy. And I doubt they did all this with Kimiko for nothing. But here's something important. Having the weapon isn't the same as winning. In the third season, Butcher and Soldier Boy almost managed to take away Homelander's powers. It got really close. And even then, he barely managed to escape. So the problem was never just having the weapon. The problem is creating the right opportunity. Kimiko might have the necessary effect, but someone still needs to trap Homelander, distract him, make him expose himself. And that's where Ryan, Butcher, Starlight, or even Homelander's own arrogance could come into play. While Homelander thinks he's become untouchable, Frenchie and Kimiko are building what might be the only real chance to take him down. And there's a technical detail that I think could be really important. Kimiko and Sister Sage stayed hidden. Zinc seems to block not only Homelander's X-ray vision, but maybe also his hearing, heartbeats, or any signal that could give the two of them away. He knew the group was at the studios because Butcher's plan revealed their location. Synapse found out, told Father, who told Homelander. But the specific hiding spot was protected, and the Zinc made sure of that. Keep that detail in mind, because if there's a way to get close to Homelander without him noticing, it might have something to do with this. And if this Zinc detail doesn't come back at the end, I'm gonna find it weird, because the way the episode showed it, it seems like more than just set dressing. It looks like a tool. Now, let's talk about V1. And here's something I haven't seen almost anyone talking about the right way. Everyone is looking at V1 as if it's just about increasing power. But maybe that's not the point. Maybe the point is to make Homelander believe he's become invincible. Because in the previous episode, it seemed like Homelander had unlocked a new form. He took the V1, his eyes exploded with energy, and they sold that image like he was about to become even more overpowered. But in this episode, where is it? He's still strong, still cruel, still dangerous. But the episode doesn't show a Homelander who's much more powerful than before. In fact, when he comes into contact with radiation, he feels it, he gets hurt, he still has vulnerabilities. So there are only two ways to read this. Either the V1 worked and the show just didn't sell it well, or, and this is way more interesting to me, the V1 isn't all that Homelander thinks it is. And now I want to know if you thought the same thing I did. Did this V1 really work, or does Homelander just think he became invincible? Because that second possibility is way more interesting. The most dangerous Homelander isn't just the powerful one, it's the Homelander who believes he can't die. When he thinks he's immortal, he exposes himself, he acts without thinking, he stops protecting himself. And maybe it's exactly that arrogance that Kimiko and the others need to take him down. So put the pieces together. Homelander wants worship, not love. He locks up his own father, discards the Deep, uses Ashley, underestimates Kimiko. And he still thinks V1 made him impossible to kill. That doesn't look like victory. It looks like he's setting himself up for a fall. And here comes the strongest theory of the week. I know a lot of people are going to disagree with this. They'll say, nah, Homelander has to die already. But hear me out. For a guy like him, dying quickly might just be too easy. And I could be wrong, but this episode is pointing way too strongly in one direction. Homelander isn't going to fall because someone just hits harder than he does. He's going to fall because he started believing his own lie. Maybe it didn't show exactly how Homelander will fall, but it pretty much drew the roadmap. He's going to lose everything he uses to feel above everyone else. And maybe the cruelest punishment for Homelander isn't dying. Maybe it's first losing his powers, feeling fear, bleeding, realizing he's become just another ordinary man. Think about that. This guy spent his whole life looking down on humans. He spent his whole life seeing everyone else as if they were insects. Imagine him for a few minutes, without strength, without lasers, without flight, looking around and realizing that everyone he humiliated can now touch him. For him, that's worse than death. He needs to feel firsthand what it's like to be exactly what he's always stepped on, human. And here I come back to the title of this video. Has Homelander's ending already been revealed? My answer is yes. Not in the sense of showing the exact final scene, but in the sense of showing the path. He killed those who didn't worship him, discarded those who served him, imprisoned those who loved him, and now everyone has a reason to want his downfall. That's not strength, it's the beginning of a collapse. And then there's Ryan. Ryan has been missing for episodes. The only Supe who was born without a compound V injection, with natural power in his blood. Ryan could be the reason Butcher doesn't cross the final line. He could be the emotional piece that makes Homelander lose control. But if he shows up, it needs to have impact. It can't just be a 2-minute scene. Ryan is way too important for that. And then there's Marie from General V. I don't think she's gonna defeat Homelander. That would be way too weird. She joined the main series way too late to resolve the boys' biggest conflict. But maybe she can save someone at the right moment. Maybe she's not there to kill. Maybe she's there to keep someone from dying. And sometimes, in the end, saving someone is worth more than killing the villain. And this hurts because we've spent years watching this group broken, messy, fighting, but together. Up until now, we've seen Homelander's world falling apart. The Seven falling apart, and allies being discarded, Vought losing its shape. But now it's the boys who are starting to come undone. Frenchie is the first to fall. That group gathered together, arguing over one of Butcher's crazy plans. Everyone complaining, someone saying it's gonna go wrong. And yet, they go anyway. Maybe that was the last time. After the next episode, nothing goes back to normal. The boys could end well, it could end badly, it could split everyone. But there's one thing I think is hard for anyone to deny. Frenchie left the show his own way, provoking, loving, sacrificing himself, and never backing down. He died with dignity, he died with purpose. And honestly, for a character like Frenchie, there was no better way for him to go out. And I think that's what really gets you. The death is heavy, but what really hurts is remembering that he was still dreaming of a normal life. And that, no matter what happens next, no one can take away from him. I want to know not just your theories, I want to know how you felt, because for me, this episode hit harder because of the pain than the action. Did this death hit you too? So what do you think? Would you rather see Homelander die with his powers, or lose everything first and feel fear like any other human? Does Butcher die as a villain, as a hero, or as both at the same time? And is Ryan coming back to change the game, or has the show forgotten about the most important piece it created? Comment down below, because I really want to know whose side you're on in all this. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell. This is Guy Santos, and I'll see you in the next video.